Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Jay Miller here, bringing you another Productivity in Tech podcast app showcase. And this week we have two very awesome people all the way from Hong Kong on the line with us. Say hello to Leo and Harry of the Mac Sorted team. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, Jay. Thank you for welcoming us. I'm Leo.
And this is Harry.
Now, a few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, I made the very public announcement that I was getting away from Todoist, which is like the big app that everyone knows of, and I wanted to try something new and something different, and I immediately was drawn to Sorted as an app. It's a very beautiful looking design. It's very simple, which is amazing because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for something extremely simple. If you can, give us a few minutes of kind of an explanation of what Sorted is and what it's all about.
Okay, well, I think we see Sorted as a very flexible day planner that tries to help you to make better decisions about time. So the way we go about that is to give you a very simple interface where you see your day and schedule, and then give you very direct user interactions to give you just keep going. Okay, all right. So what we see is we have a lot of different kind of task management theories out there, such as GTD, the Stephen Covey's quadrants, and then Pomodoro, and all of these stuff. But all of them kind of target a different piece of a full task management workflow. GTD talks more about putting stuff out of your mind and then organizing them into contexts and projects. Stephen Covey's quadrants is more about how do you determine what is important versus urgent. Pomodoro kind of focuses more of that you should take some breaks, and then when you're not doing a break, you should focus on your work. But there isn't really anything that targets what you should schedule into your day. I mean, time is the finite resource that we have. And outside of kind of extreme cases where you're talking about quantum physics and extreme speed, time is sort of a constant for us. So why not use time as a delimiter on what you want to accomplish per day? So Sorted is there to kind of help you make a plan really quickly, your day plan, and then you try to follow it. And if you can't follow it fast enough, there's some unforeseen circumstances come up, then we give you a quick way to update your task and your schedule so you could get really quick feedback, kind of like a feedback loop.
So that was one of the things that really interested me in when I looked at Sorted, was that the swiping and the manipulating of tasks was something that I had never seen before. And I've heard a lot of the negative statements where people say, oh, it's like swipes, or oh, it's like this other app. And in my opinion, it's really not, because every app out there is doing some type of swiping gesture. You can't just say because one app is doing it, now it's trying to be another app. That's not the case. What you guys have really done is said, hey, we want to make it so that we're not swiping on one app. We're swiping on all the apps, 2 of the apps, 3 of the apps, however many apps we need to do. And the quick little like swipe and select thing was really fun. Like, I think that was the first time I could say like I pulled out like a productivity app and was just like, oh, this is fun. Like I want to move stuff around. I want to go in and reorder lists and add the dates and grab 3 items and push them back a week or move them up. What gave you the idea of just wanting to make it a really fun and intuitive way of handling the information?
Well, I guess when I first started this project, I tried out a lot of other apps. And then what I found was it was really hard for me to kind of just see what my current day looks like. And then if things change, what would be my revised plan for the day, right? A lot of the other apps, I'll have to go in and kind of like go through picker wheels and change one thing at a time. And then if I have 10 items that I have to shift, then that becomes a hassle and I don't do it. And then kind of things start falling apart. I don't really see an updated schedule. I don't really see what I should be doing next. So I knew there was some problem with the task management apps when I started this project. And I had a long think through of what I think the problem was. Could it be because it's missing some features, or could it be because it's not powerful enough, or it's too powerful, right? And so after a lot of just arguing with myself and talking with my friends, I sort of started coming up with the idea of maybe it's not whether it's a feature thing, whether I need additional features or make this app more powerful. It's more maybe a UI UX problem. Basically, go back to the basics. All I really need is a reminder to tell me I need to do something, but then the problem is not in more powerful features, but rather how I manipulate those tasks that I have, right? If I want to just delay something, it should be easy. It should take me only, a second going into the app, do the update, see the plan, and then move on with my day, right? The funny thing I found about task management is that, it's kind of a necessary evil to help you be more productive. But if you overdo it, such as when I was using some complex software like OmniFocus, whatever, I found myself over managing my tasks, right? And then spending more time actually managing the system than actually doing what I was supposed to do. So I wanted, one core tenet was to go back to the basics and say, well, I should only be, opening up Sorted or whatever app I was designing for that few seconds, get that key information, make those changes, and get back to work. I should never be spending more time in it than necessary.
One of the things that I think that a lot of apps have done that I believe that Sorted is really good at not doing is adding too many features that require you to stay in the app very long. One of the things that I've noticed is anytime that I'm using Sorted, it's always a really quick experience, like you've said. Now, I'm also a member of the development Slack channel, and I see a ton of feature requests. I mean, I think I've even asked a few of my own just to see kind of what's the game plan. How do you determine in a very simple app with a very simple user experience, and that's kind of its strong point, how do you determine what needs to be added and what needs to stay out?
I think it's an ongoing process. So both Harry and I and our users on the Slack channel, we have a lot of discussions. Whenever any new idea comes out, I think we really just try to discuss it. Is this core to helping people make better decisions about time, right? And if it's core, then how can we implement it in such a way that it's not intrusive and also feels optional? So a lot of the times when I was using a lot of the other apps is I felt this kind of urge to add a lot of information, to over tag things or over label stuff and over organize. So I really want to balance this on this tight wire of giving sort of this a lot of power for the power users, but things should feel optional, so you don't feel obliged to add, too much information and over manage your stuff. So it's an ongoing process that Harry and I and our users kind of just discuss away.
I think that's great. Let's talk about the Mac app. Now, if I remember correctly, Sorted was just going to be on iOS, and then I think you guys came out with a version 2 and then started working on a Mac app. Is that how things went?
we started with the iOS, obviously, and then after maybe actually not even that. Before we first launch our iOS app, we already have the thought of doing the Mac app because we find out like ourselves when we have some other iOS apps in the phone. We actually want something to be on the Mac so that it helps improving the productivity. We started developing the Mac app, but obviously it's another big challenge. And then we have the iOS app going out and in parallel doing the Mac app development. And until now, we have the Mac app beta in the market where everyone can apply for and try it out. However, I would say this is one thing we are not catching up with the schedule we wanted because we have something as a feedback from our user group saying they want in the iOS app. And somehow we delay our Mac app development quite a bit. So it's still in the beta version, and hopefully we can go back to the Mac app development soon so that we can also release it as a public launch.
Yeah, so in short, we actually knew we wanted to do a Mac app quite early on. And then we actually then started working on the Mac app after we released Sorted for iOS. And then in between, what we found was, well, we needed to prioritize. Now that we have a Mac beta out and users are able to kind of complete their app ecosystem using the beta, we needed to go back to our iOS and polish out quite a few things with the iOS app first, and then go back to the Mac app. So right now, the Mac app is sort of on hold a little bit as we work on some key features for Sorted for iOS.
So I have to ask, just because I have you on the line now, what is the next big thing that's coming to Sorted?
Well, first of all, I think some more powerful organizational options, such as being able to set priorities and to set star your 3 top most important items or put context into your task. So I think that a lot of our beta testers are finding out that's very useful and handy to them. But the key piece that we're working on right now is calendar integration. So with Sorted, what we started off with is our premise is to allow you to plan your day better. But then we never got to integrating calendar, your iOS calendar into Sorted off the bat, because that took a bit more work. And so now we're finally getting to this core piece that I think a lot of our beta testers are looking for, a lot of our current users are asking for. And we're very excited that we're getting close to the first release of the beta for this feature. And hopefully we'll have something out soon for all our users.
And I am one of those that is definitely looking forward to that. I thought that it was a great idea because you see the calendar and everything is manipulating a calendar in the app itself. And I said, I've never been one to do what's called time batching or time chunking, or I think I do it. I just don't practice it as like a written productivity system. But having an idea of being able to look at your task list and say, okay, I think this is going to take 1 hour or 2 hours, so let me mark that and then add it to my calendar so I'm seeing throughout my day what I should be working on. And the one thing I always feel about those is anxiety starts to build up. Have you guys had any issues with people saying, I'm just looking at too much, or, hey, if we do it this way, we can't? It just becomes too much anxiety or too much to look at to manage my day?
I think that's an interesting question. So first off, if we go back to our normal to-do lists, I think there's a lot of anxiety with just to-do lists. The list keeps growing and building until you look at it and you don't even know where to begin, or you just don't want to look at it at all. So I think with Sorted, what we're trying to do is when you're in your schedule mode and you're limited by that 24 hours of time that you have per day, you have to cut and trim what you can't do, right? You have to be selective and say, I'm going to schedule my task, let's say one task every half hour or an hour. Then task will overflow to the next day automatically. And you have to then start making those decisions where what is truly important? What are you going to try to accomplish today? What are those urgent things that you must do today and those that you dearly want to complete, right? And then you just need to move things that the rest of the stuff off to later. And that kind of helps you limit kind of what you can do in a day. Now, of course, if you try to pack your schedule really tight, you might feel very anxious because you're getting notifications after notification about what you should be doing. Well, then that is more a symptom of you overscheduling yourself, right? It's then what you should do is when you feel that way, it's a signal that you're overloading yourself and that you should spread things out and be more realistic about what you can schedule. And then as you refine this, as you go through the process each day of setting up your schedule and sorted, you'll start seeing what can you realistically accomplish. You'll get a better feel for it. And then you'll start scheduling your stuff around that. And so you don't feel as though you're trying to, catch your breath coming out of the water every second. And that's when you feel the zen of okay, yes, here's my day. I'm going to try my best. And I don't feel too pressured, but I do have a little bit of pressure to keep myself honest to my schedule, right? So there's this saying from one of my friends, a mentor back then, is pressure makes diamonds. So I think a little bit of pressure is good. Over pressure, then you might crack. So you need to find that balance for yourself. And I think it'll be a little bit different per person.
I've never had anyone reference the pressure creates diamonds reference when it comes to productivity, but I think that's true, and that's something that I can definitely speak of honestly as an example. Every Thursday we release our other podcast, Loosely Connected, and we record it on Monday. I usually have a weekly obligation on Tuesday, so that really just leaves me Wednesday evening to record, to fully edit the podcast and get it ready to go so it can be released on Thursday. And I know what pressure feels like when it's like midnight and I'm like, oh, I still got to get through this edit and I got to get my show notes done and everything looked at. And of course, luckily my co-host Lee helps a lot with the show notes and everything, but it becomes really important to sit there and say, okay, I have a deadline coming up. And that is a level of procrastination that we deal with a lot, especially people in tech. I feel like we are so deadline focused. Is that why you guys decided to focus so much on the timers and having the due dates?
Well, with our development of Sorted and previous products and stuff like that, I think having a deadline is important. It's a goal that we try to strive towards, but we also have to be realistic that sometimes we might not be able to meet certain deadlines and that we have to remain flexible. But we also need to hold ourselves accountable, right? Especially when we're in the development house. We're not part of a big company where some manager will force you to do certain things and have you meet your deadlines. We have to be our own driver. And so having this kind of focus of saying, time-based focus of we have to meet this, certain things we don't have to meet, we could be a little bit more lenient. I think it's just good for us.
I guess it follows certain productivity principles underneath. Like you have the next day coming, you may have a plan for what you want to achieve during the day. So that's why you put the task with a specific time. And then since things changes over time, like certain things can come in, your clients may ask you for certain things, or sometimes you finish a task earlier than you thought. Then you can you may either procrastinate or reschedule your own tasks so that you can get a realistic overview of what you have done, what you have achieved. That's why we want like a quick way to change things. But in the common scenario for many other apps, while they have done a good job of like getting the list of things to be done and checking off each of them. However, you cannot change all things quite quickly, especially in batch. You need to do it one at a time, and that process, if you have like 10 tasks and you need to do it one at a time, it feels overwhelming. And then after some time, you just don't want to make the modification anymore, and then you just leave it there. And I guess that's one of the biggest problems, that you have your list getting longer and longer, you get more and more lists, and then sometimes you may just want, okay, I really want to solve this problem. Let's find another app. So you can't really sustain your productivity, and we are trying to solve that problem.
Right, that's a good point that Harry brought up. Another way of putting what we're trying to do is have a sustainable productivity app. Not one where you use for like a week or maybe 3 months and then drop. And then when you feel you're disorganized again, you try to pick it up again and go for another 2 months, 3 months, and then stop again. So whatever you set in sorted is it's written on paper with a pencil. It's not really a hard deadline. We make it really easy for you to change it at any time you want. It's up to you to decide whether, at any given moment, what your revised priorities are. Because it could be you have a perfect plan, and then your colleague comes up to you and says, oh, something really crazy just happened. We have to deal with this, right? We have to deal with this PR issue where somebody promoted your product and it's booming like crazy and servers are crashing and stuff like that. Well, that might just take precedence over whatever you had planned before. And so things, I think tasks should be flexible. It's not like anything should be written in stone and you can make a decision really quickly. Or if a colleague comes up to you and asks you for something totally silly, right? You also need to be able to make a quick decision and say no when you have to. I mean, that's one of the hardest things probably, is to know when you have to say no. And one of the best ways is to refer back to your plan and say, do I have time for this? Does this take priority over anything that I have planned for the day? If it doesn't, then, well, you just sometimes have to say no.
I'm going to take that and let's talk about the second part of this app showcase, and that is the people that make it. What do you guys do that sometimes you just have to say no to? And I ask that as in, what are some of the things that you'd rather be doing instead of writing code at 3 o'clock in the morning? Well, I guess then it probably would be sleeping, right? But when your friends want to go hang out, or when you want to go have fun, what are some of those things? I want to know what the people behind Sorted like to do.
Okay. Well, I love movies. I just love movies, always loved movies. Before I switched over and went back into my first passion, which is coding and development, I was actually contemplating whether I want to go into do filming. So that's my biggest thing. But when you talk about that coding 3 a.m., I actually love coding 3 a.m. I'm a night owl, so it works out very well. I actually code throughout the night, and then Harry actually codes throughout the day. We meet in between to discuss any things that we have to pass off and coordinate. And then that also allows us time throughout 24 hours to answer user questions and Slack group questions as well. So a lot of our users actually came back to us and said, wow, these guys have amazing customer service, because I'm sending an email out expecting the developers to be, sleeping because it's like 3 a.m. and I get a reply in 10 minutes. So it just works out for us.
Yeah, that's true. I do it during the day because I have a kid at home. So I spend my nighttime with my kid. And I guess that's what I do most nowadays besides coding. Like basically taking half the time for the family and the kid, and then half the time for Sorted. And since our current main thing is about creating the next feature, the critical feature. So it's mostly on coding part. But sometimes I do some writing as well because I find it's quite a funny thing. It's a good way to spread out your work to keep your audience. So I try to learn about writing. I do some journals every day, and I used to be doing like one blog post a day, and it's quite fun. You got to see like new people with different perspectives, giving you comments, and I think it could be as fun as like making podcasts is something like that as well. Like you do it constantly, and people just like become your audience, or maybe even become your friends, and then chat with different stuff. I guess it's kind of like similar channels.
On top of that, I think both Harry and I we just love development. Harry ran Rails Girls and then Angel Hack in Hong Kong for quite a few years. So from that, we get to meet a lot of other developers. For me, I've tried to help out. I've taught programming courses along with Harry at General Assembly. And so, yeah, it turns out that development actually is kind of part of our lives, part of our lifestyles. And if nobody paid me to do it, I would probably still be coding.
So with that, you talk about all of the community outreach there. What is the community in Hong Kong? As someone who I don't live in Silicon Valley, but I live in San Diego, which is like we call it like Silicon Beach's neighbor. So we can go up to LA all the time and go see like what they're doing in Orange County and see like the Snapchat vending machines and all those fun things. But it's great because we have a large biotech scene. So there are a lot of developers and a lot of different like UX designers and there is a tech scene in San Diego, and I'm just starting to realize how fun it is and how really engaging it is. What is the scene like in Hong Kong?
I think in Hong Kong it's still a growing stage. While startups become more a trendy term here, and we got more and more like government support or private company support. For the developer community, it's growing, and at the same time, it's a bit scattered. Like, you don't get to see other developers a lot. Say for us, we are working in a co-working space here, and in terms of developers in-house, I guess maybe only 30 to 40%. Most of the others are business people, like doing maybe business development or customer support. And for the developers themselves, we don't get to really meet each other or chat. I only know those people that I used to know. That's why one thing I wanted to do is to run some like hackathons or coding events so that there is a reason for people to come out. In most of the time, those participants are like newcomers rather than experienced people. So I guess most of the experienced developers tend to work in their own office, and I believe they are hardworking people, and there are some successful products as well. But it isn't like community stuff.
Well, it's not as great and wonderful as in West Coast. That's why we visit there. We try to visit there every once in a while to jump into that spirit. And over here, we try to do things to kind of bring people together, or sometimes we just pick up our laptops and then walk over, or take a subway and go over to to just visit some developer friends and just work out of their office or just say hi, have lunch. So I hope in time we will come out and
I think
have more.
that's a fun thing to do. Like last couple of weeks, we visited another productivity app, Good Looks. They have a team in Hong Kong, and then they just had a new office space, and then we just went there, chat with them, had lunch, and had some great fun talking about like current trends of the technology world and other stuff. I guess that's a common thing to do. And for us, we'd rather do more like this kind.
I'll definitely say if you guys want to come down to San Diego, I will be happy to show you around. Or if you want to fly me out to Hong Kong, it's been a while. I would love to go back.
It sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
All right, definitely. So you've mentioned a couple of times you're recording out of your co-working space now. We live in a world where so many people are trying to work from home. Why have a co-working space, especially knowing that, Harry, you said you like to spend time with your kids and I just don't understand it. Like, I guess co-working space is better than like cubicle, but at the same time, don't you just want to roll out of bed and just start working?
I guess that's a thing about productivity. Like, when you want to create like high quality work, you really want to be focused at that. And you know what? For a kid at age of 21 months, you don't want him to like run to you and say, let's read this book or sing that song. You really want to have time to stay focused. And we really believe in deep work because we are doing such a productivity app. We want to be productive ourselves. We want to like get into that practice, fill that up with the environment, and then create a high quality work. I choose to put it in different times. I work during the day and then spend the time at night. The flexibility that gives me is that I could choose like sometimes for a weekday, like Tuesday, I could go out with my kid and then come back home or come back to office to work during the weekend. I guess that's kind of the way I am trying out. And for a special case, my case, I don't really have a desk at home. And if I lie on the bed, I would just sleep. So I'd rather sleep there and then work outside in the co-working space.
To add to that, I think it also really depends on the people and the circumstance they're in as well. Some people work very well, can work very well from a home office. Some people need that environment to be very different, so it's easier for them to separate the kind of work-life balance, if you will. I myself, I actually work from home most of the time, and then I come into to the co-working space some of the times, whereas Harry with his kids will require some place that is more sacredly his own, where he can step away and become and have a clear defined role of what he's doing now, as opposed to handling maybe the kids.
I'm really enjoying this conversation because it challenges me as someone who wants to get into the development space to see where the two collide, where, my two passions, developing things and productivity, you guys are at that exact cusp of where I would love to be, where it's like, hey, I can focus on productivity and things that make me more productive, but I can also play around with code. It has to be awesome, isn't it?
I'm loving every single moment of it.
It's challenging.
What makes it so challenging?
You know what? Like technology, as we all know, in this industry, it updates really fast. Like basically every day you are learning some new things, right? And for every line of code you are writing, it could be a new technology already that you covers like different features, what the operating system provides to you, or you just change your way of creating the same thing. So it's challenging because you need to learn, you need to catch up, and it's also fun that when you are able to accomplish that many things within a day.
Yeah, I think it's a strange dichotomy where just the sheer volume of new learning that you have is exhilarating to me. But sometimes, especially if I didn't get enough sleep during that day, it could feel overwhelming as well, right? I could have just slept for a couple hours and then wake up and then maybe Harry is telling me, oh, hey, there's this new paradigm to do certain things, right? And then I think we could definitely make use of this and go for it. And then I'll be like, huh? Right. Can I get my coffee first? It's not quite processing. So yes, there could be times when you feel overwhelmed, but I think in general, I feel very exhilarated most of the time.
So you've talked about what's next for Sorted. What is the big thing in tech that you two are excited about right now?
Good question. Big thing in tech that it's coming around the corner. WWDC. Every year, I think it's one of those exciting and kind of dreadful moments that we have as iOS developers, is to see the new things that Apple is releasing. Hopefully, they improve certain APIs for us, give us better capabilities at solving the problems that we're trying to solve. At the same time, there's always this kind of hidden dread of, I wonder if Apple is going to come out with their own app that will kill us or some other, app industry, or start eating away into it. So it's one of those things that it's a cycle every year we kind of go through. And now I think there are a lot of the tech industry is going, especially in America, I guess, it's talking a lot about. There was a lot of talk about chatbots. Now it's kind of fading away. Now there's a lot of talk about virtual reality. There's a lot of talk about AI. I think these are things that we keep, Harry and I, we monitor and then discuss, and then we kind of form opinions, such as like, how does AI fit into task scheduling, right? Should we be working on something along that lines, or is it something that we might not believe in? So even if there's a lot of hype, I think we always want to discuss and say, do we really believe in the thing? We don't want to follow just this trend. We want to do something that is actually providing value. And we think to ourselves, well, with AI, do we want the AI to kind of dictate what we do each day? That might be the furthest extreme, right? And then we basically become a slave to our AI, or should the AI be more kind of just suggestive, or should we actually be more focused about guiding users to form good habits of making decisions about their most precious resource, which is their time? So these are discussions that we have every once in a while, and then kind of form and revise our opinions on, and see, and which will, I think, ultimately impact the next turn we take with Sorted.
Well, I definitely think that Sorted is on a really good path at the moment, and I'm really excited for everything that is coming up in it. And everything that will hopefully help people get more productive. So that's going to be my final question. What would you say is the most important thing for that person who has never thought about productivity to start thinking about? What are their first steps?
So this is interesting. So what we did was there were a couple of users who saw us using Sorted, and then they had no kind of productivity background or never read any books before. And I just gave him a very simple routine. I told him, okay, so just write down stuff into the inbox, schedule those stuff into your week, and then try to follow each day. Try to follow that your plan. Try to complete as much of it as possible, almost like a game. If you start falling behind, we schedule it, and then just keep doing this cycle, right, every day, and then see what happens. And then this user came back to us and said, "Yeah, this is working out for me. Did you know I had ADHD and I struggled with trying to, organize myself? And this just following this simple plan, this kind of cycle." Do what sort of alerts me to, and then reschedule if I can't, and just keep doing this, has really helped me. And so this is something that I think new users to task management should start off with. Just the very basic simples, right? Put things down, so brain dump, if we use our terms, into your inbox, schedule it, try to follow it, and then revise, and anything you can't complete, put it off till later.
Let them know in passing how they can learn more about Sorted and where they can find you. And I hope you guys have Twitter, because I need to follow you guys immediately.
Thank you. So you can find us on staysorted.com. So STAYSORTED.com. And then our Twitter handle.
It's stay_sorted.
At stay_sorted. That's our Twitter. And then,
Yeah, we welcome everyone in contacting us. So you could either tweet us or send us an email at hello@staysorted.com. We tend to reply really quickly, and it could be as short as 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've kind of learned from that. It is really quick. So that's always good.
Yeah, we treat everyone kind of just as a friend, as someone who's joining us for this little journey that we have to develop Sorted.
All right. Well, guys, I enjoyed this conversation.
I think not from us.
And I hope everyone is productive.
Yep. Wish everyone a very productive day, with or without Sorted.
You've been listening to the Productivity in Tech podcast. You can find more episodes and our other shows at productivityintech.com. And if you enjoyed the show, be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts at. And also be sure to tell your friends about the show. And a special thanks to Nadir for the use of his song, A Hustler in Spite of Myself. Thanks again for listening, and for the Productivity in Tech podcast, I'm Jay Miller, and I hope we've been productive.